Hi there, welcome
Go
everybody. Thank you oh, sorry, Mel, what was it?
Go on, get on with it.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar today, Agile Planning Techniques Made Simple. My name's Mark Constable. I'll be your host and moderator for the session. I'm joined by the brilliant Melanie Franklin, who's going to take you through these Agile Planning techniques from the popular Agile Change Agent course. As some of you will know Mel from previous webinars, but very briefly, Mel's an expert trainer, consultant in all things Agile and change. And we're trying a 30-minute format today, so I'm going to whiz through this introduction as quick as I can. So Mel's got as much time to cover her content. So usual housekeeping, recording is, the session is being recorded and we'll share that with everyone by an email soon after the session. You can submit questions at any point during the session. I'll keep a close eye on those and we'll try and address as many as we can in the time that we have. And feedback is also important to us, particularly on the format as well. And there'll be a survey pop up at the end of the session, which will just ask for your preference, really. So if you could complete that, that'd be fantastic. So that's it for me, Mel. All yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, tell us if you like the 30 minutes, basically. So I'm going to get on. There's two agenda items. I want to talk about the roadmap as the core sort of planning tool and decomposition as the key technique, really simply. So let's look at what an agile plan looks like. It's chunk by chunk. We call them iterations or increments or tranches or stages. You call them what you like. But ultimately what we're looking at is we're thinking, well, okay, what I've got is I've got an end goal, if you like. I've got something that I need to sort out. And then what I need to do is I need to deliver that in something meaningful as soon as I possibly can. So what we have is we have the outcomes, and then you can divide up each of those iterations, whether they are a few weeks or a few months. We're not talking here about sprints, by the way. A sprint is often somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and it's delivering a specific thing, and then we'll go on and do the next one and then the next one. An iteration is a bit more about putting several sprints together, if you like, because it might be at the end of, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, probably no more than about 14 weeks, because thinking about the brain and how it works, the further out we go, the more fuzzy it becomes, the less urgent it becomes, and that's a very dangerous thing. So what we want is to say maybe 12, 14 weeks, we will deliver an outcome, a capability. We will have shifted the ability of the organization in what it does. It might be that we've launched a new product range, or we've put everybody within a particular area onto a new system. But we have done something that didn't exist before. Could also be the flip side, you know, we could actually say we're no longer able to do something. We might say we will exit out of certain services, and within 12 weeks we would have closed that service down for those customers. So the thing is, you're thinking, well, what does the organization do at the end of that iteration or that increment? What's the shift that we've achieved? That's what we mean by outcome or capability. And in order to get there, as with any planning, I mean, yes, we want to do incremental and iterative and chunk it up, but we as human beings tend to move through start, middle and end. So you have to get started with a bit of brainstorming and prioritizing. Then you've got to do the hard work, actually make the progress, but then realizing benefits means you are deploying it into operational use. You are actually handing it over to people to make it happen. Where does this roadmap come from? Well, the roadmap is thinking about all the time. Do you know what? We need to change where we were before. If we were using our old sort of waterfall planning, then what tends to happen is I will tell you, oh, I'll give you this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing. Well, actually, no. I can tell you about this deliverable, this thing that will exist. But actually, if I'm going to be agile, I can't lay out everything end to end because I'm not doing all the detailed planning up front. That's the opposite of agile. There's no flexibility. There's no openness. There's no willingness to pivot to different things if after the first wave of work, we realize we need a different course. So what I end up saying is if I talk about deliverables, the things I will give you, then I can say, well, I'll definitely give you that. And then depending on your feedback, I'm not sure what I'll give you after that. That's not good agile planning, because that just frightens our stakeholders, because it makes them think, you don't know what you're doing. That's not really a plan. All you've planned is the next couple of months, but you don't know the rest of it. And yet you want me to budget for the whole year. So that's bad Agile. Along the bottom here, we have good Agile. And this comes back to what I was saying about capabilities, because that, whatever the end goal, what's the ultimate shift that we are making? So I'm currently working with an organization that's building an entire B2B operation. Now, they currently service business to customer and business to business, but they are launching a whole set of products that is just business to business. So they're very clear with their end goal about what it is they're targeting and why they're targeting it, strategically what it will do for them. They know that their business customers want a certain set of services, but then the customers say that, but there's no real evidence. They've been working a lot with focus groups, but what they realize is we'll build this capability. Our customers working in partnership with us will be able to do these things from now on. And the roadmap we've laid out is that we think that that capability is the most important one. Then there'll be this one, then this one, then this one. What they'll be able to do, you can look into the future and sort of say, well, actually, it's not specific deliverables because we don't know what will work and what won't work. But we know what you'll be able to do, but how we'll get there and what exactly will give you, we'll work that out as we get closer to each of those outcomes or capabilities. But you are laying out a roadmap of intention about the shift in what they are able to do. You're managing expectations when you're looking at the roadmap effectively. The key thing about this roadmap is that it embodies the concepts of Agile. Now, I wrote about 5 concepts in the Agile Change Management Handbook because I was so used to going on courses for all the different Agile methodologies where they'd tell me that they had 8 principles or 12 principles or 13 principles or 16 principles, and it was all getting a bit much. When I looked at it and cut through all of it, I recognised that although they express themselves differently, off the back of the Agile Manifesto, which, it was in 2001, so we're more than 20 years on from that now, there were some core things that actually makes us Agile. And the first of those is that we stick with on-time delivery. Now, that might be a strange one to pick, but effectively what we're saying is, we're going to deliver you a capability, an ability to do something on this date. So get ready for it. That's the point at which we'll start to realise benefits. You need to be prepared to operate in that way from that date. But exactly what all the deliverables are in there, exactly how that will work, well, we'll get to that. We'll plan that as we go. But we retain flexibility over exactly what we deliver, but we keep the constraint of no, we will deliver on time, because that becomes the basis around which we prioritize, because we're saying, well, look, I've only got 10 days left. There are 3 things I could do. I will do the most valuable one. And that's where we get into business need, that we're constantly prioritizing in Agile planning against, well, what will make the most difference? What will be the most useful? What will solve the most problems? So business need is critical, rather than in other planning techniques, a more waterfall approach. The planning is driven by a logical sequence of events. So I'll do this at the start, then this, and all that flows into that, and then I'll do that, and then I'll get to the end. So there's that logical sequence, which actually can deliver quite a lot of economies of scale. It's like a hot knife through butter. It's brilliant. But we make the business wait until we've done every single one of those activities before we deliver something. Here, we turn it on its head and say, we need to work out what the most important things for you are, and then we have to make sure those are our outcomes and they're in the right order, and then we'll work out how to deliver it. So what we've got is an iterative approach, and we build up over time. As I said, I'm currently doing this major rollout of a whole new business-to-business service, and I'm constantly thankful that it's iterative, And it is an evolving solution. I deliver the first part and everybody goes, yeah, but that works, but we don't want that bit anymore because our thinking's moved on. And not only do I get to realize what I should build more of in the next iteration and what I should stop concentrating on, but also the earlier I deliver these outcomes at the end of each iteration, the more concrete the senior leaders have for going, now we see what you mean. Yeah, we want more of that. Oh, we don't want that at all. And no, that's what we want to give our customers. So it is an evolving solution that actually is very collaborative between the business and those of us who are trying to deliver things and are trying to shape new ways of working. Because we're trying to think, well, what works? Let's give you an example of not just the thing we've created, but also how they're delivered. So a lot of what I'm doing is making sure that I partner what we might call tangible change. So I'm building a platform along with all of the procedures, the processes, the pricing, the marketing context, the training up of customer services staff, so that even if I deliver just one of the services at the end of an iteration, it is deliverable to customers. It's up and running. Other services can then be tacked on and we'll expand some of our ways of working and we'll tighten up some of our marketing and we'll reform some of our advertising campaigns. But the thing is, I didn't make them wait for the next 18 months. I get something to them in a couple of months and then it really has kicked off. So those are the sorts of concepts the business need, want things now, don't they? They don't want to wait for months because the world moves on without them. So this roadmap makes sure that I'm hitting that bigger need of give me stuff now so that I can get ahead of the competition, or I can solve my problem that's causing us a great deal of angst. The sooner I can get stuff in front of people, the sooner it delivers value. So the roadmap becomes that fundamental principle across all of the ideas of Agile, all of the aims, the objectives of being Agile. You get it from using a roadmap technique. Now we need to look at how on earth we create that technique. Now, you'll see that I've done a big breakdown here. What I've got is the end goal, decomposed, broken down into a couple of key outcomes, and that means the shift in ability. We're able to do something that we couldn't do before. That ability, that capability is made up of different procedures and techniques. To deliver on those, there are different activities that we need to go through, which means there are lots of tasks that support those activities. So you see there's a sort of full breakdown in the logic. The reason I called this slide hopeful planning is because at the end of the day, too often we go the other way. And I know we've all experienced it because we're human. Instead of trying to do the bigger, what do we need by the end of this program or project? What's the big change we're trying to achieve here? And then break that down into outcomes. Well, we should be able to do that, and we should be able to do that, and we should be able to do that. To be honest, that takes quite a lot of hard thinking, you know. It takes a lot of imagining the future. And I think it takes a lot of confidence to say, no, that's what we're heading towards. That's our compelling destination. That's the vision, if you like, of what we're trying to deliver. But because we're human, what we do is instead we write ourselves a to-do list. We think of all the tasks. We think of quite micro requirements. Oh, we've got to have that. Oh, it's got to be on that colour. Oh, no, we need that field. Oh, we shouldn't have that template. We think ping, 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 ping all the time, all the things we've got to get done. Because as human beings, that's what we're doing. We're doing activities. We do stuff. The problem is with that is that too often we start with the task, and what we do is we go the other way from left to right. So what we hope is that every single thing I've remembered to do will get me to the right things that we need, that the task will lead to the right activity, that leads to the right procedure, that leads to the right outcome, that leads ultimately to the end goal. So there's a lot of hope in there. And what you find is that, of course, there's an awful lot of tasks in there that we didn't need, that weren't quite as important, it turns out, as we originally thought when we had the idea. And there's also an awful lot that we've forgotten to put in as well, because we came up with all the tasks, and then what we tried to do was pull them together into that kind of plan, that Gantt chart style plan, and work through every one of them. But there isn't really much room in there to be flexible, is there? Once you've laid that plan out from end to end, you're stuck with it. I mean, you try, don't you, to put things in, but it messes with the deadlines and it confuses everybody. So instead, you feel this tremendous pressure to ask everybody for everything up front, trying to believe that as long as we've had lots of quality conversations and we have a brilliant requirements gathering process, that we can't possibly have missed anything out, and therefore we're absolutely going to get this right. Even if that is the case, there will still be an awful lot of things in there that we don't actually need. And the world's moved on. As we deliver things, new things would have come up, and we've got no way of accommodating them. So that's the first disadvantage of this more hopeful approach. I think the other thing for me is that it's a volume thing. I mean, I was global head of project and program management for a number of years, where we worked on this kind of left to right, not right to left approach. And I look at how we were doing things, and we would be several months in the planning up front, probably because one of the things that took the most time was that there were so many micro activities and tasks and specific requirements that we were always ploughing through. We had this massive volume to get through, to prioritize, to put in the right order and work out the interdependencies between. Whereas, let's look at the other side. Let's do it the other way for a minute. The smart planning. The smart planning, I start with that end goal and the constituent parts of that end goal, the big outcomes. And then I say, right, okay, let's put these outcomes into the iterations. And then on the left, we can put whatever tasks we need for that outcome into that iteration. So I'm dealing with a much smaller group of elements. It's much clearer picture when you're dealing with a much smaller group of elements. You can cut through all the noise and you can go, well, okay, those are the outcomes. Right, everybody clear on that? Will you sign off on that? Does that make sense to you? It's incredibly difficult to do a sense check on that kind of Gantt chart, because what you're asked to do is sort of say, well, have you forgotten any kind of activity or task? But when I show that to my sponsor doesn't know all the details of all the tasks we need to go through. So I'm asking somebody who doesn't have that knowledge to authorize something. So they might, because I've put a micro level plan in front of them, they might pick it apart a bit and ask very low level questions about pieces of work they'll never do and probably will never see. So I'm inviting the sponsor to drop down into a level of sort of micromanagement. I must be mad. Whereas when I do this smart planning, I'm inviting the sponsor to stay at the right level for them, which is at the higher level, the core outcomes, the core capabilities, that shift that they want to see in their organization, that they can much more clearly map their strategic objectives, the achievement of those objectives met by one or more outcomes. So we're keeping them at that higher level. We're having a more appropriate conversation because they are more strategic, they are bigger picture, and they're thinking, well, if we get this outcome, then that will really deliver us return on investment or cost savings, or will be a more sustainable or a more innovative organization, whatever the transformation is. I've had so much feedback from people who've been on the Agile Change Agent course that this is the thing that makes such a difference with their sponsor relationships, because they're much more able to outline the outcomes. And if I just go back for a moment to this one here, if you think about it, again, the idea that if we start talking about deliverables, I'm going to build you this, I'm going to create this, then again, we're into the sponsor sort of critiquing whether or not, is that the thing I want or not? And they don't always know, particularly in more digital transformations. They simply don't know because that's not their area of expertise. Whereas when I drop down into this one, I am talking about this is what your organization is able to do. Don't worry about how it does it. Let's focus on what it's able to do. And it's going to be able to do this, then this, then this, then this. And they're going, yeah, that's exactly what our customers are saying, or that's exactly what our market needs, or this is exactly what our regulators are expecting from us. So what we're doing is we're keeping the sponsors at the right level, whilst at the same time, I always think of this as, fighting my way through all the tasks and activities. And it's, when you've got hundreds of Post-it notes, you're trying to work out what comes first, what comes next. And the likelihood of me getting it right, even though I'm a genius planner, but the likelihood of me getting it right is very low. Whereas here, I've got a logical flow. I know I need to create those outcomes. So I know about the abilities, the shifting capability. So I can then think, okay, well, what are the things I need to do? Maybe it's techniques, procedures, and what activities will I deliver, and therefore what tasks? It's a much clearer route for me as much as anything. And I'm just going to give you a very quick example because we're on this webinar. So of course, I'm going to use the webinar as an example. I know it's a tiny thing, but the secret to agile planning is being able to decompose any piece of work, anything, by asking yourself, no, I'm not going to focus on the work, but what's the result of the work? Because as soon as you ask yourself, what's the result of the work, you get the end goal. So here, Mark wants a webinar on agile planning, right? Okay, well, what's the result of that then? Because the end goal isn't the webinar, it's the result that you have. What's the shift I create for you? You understand the agile planning approach, you understand roadmap and decomposition, that breakdown, and you can use it. Because if you follow this example, you'll be able to use it. That's the end goal. What are the sort of things I want to get out of it? I want to get the roadmap and I want to cover decomposition. I've only got 28 minutes. Well, there we go. There's my plan. So that keeps me really focused. And then I start to think, well, okay, from the roadmap, what are you able to do? So what are the things I need to talk to you about? Iterations and outcomes and timelines. And then what do I need to do to create this? And here is the sort of secret behind sort of agile, is your ability to look at something and go, what's the core stuff? So agenda was, I sort of thought there's 2 key points. In 28 minutes, I can make 2 points. And then I wrote a script. Believe it or not, I have actually rehearsed this. I've worked it all out. The key points I want to share with you, that will make the difference. And that is what I put in the plan to begin with. So if you think about it, I think about all the tasks to write the agenda, the script, the purpose, the visuals, and and I put them into the first iteration. And then when I've done that, I'll do on roadmap, I'll do the same for decomposition. So I thought about the core points I need to make about roadmap with this caveat, which is what Agile is all about. If I get interrupted, if something disastrous happens and I don't get to create lovely slides, I've still got a script. Mark could still have held the event. It would have been a podcast, but he still could have held it. Maybe I do get the script finished, and as part of that, by the way, I'm thinking all the time of the purpose of why we're doing it and what you need from me to do this. And I think then, oh, I'll do the visuals. That will be my next delivery. And then at least, if I haven't done a full slide deck, I might have one visual I could share and talk you through to bring it to life a little bit. So this iterative approach means that I think, well, what's the absolute essential item? That if I didn't have any other time, well, as long as you write a script, Mel, you could give a podcast version. So surely that should be in the first iteration. That's the first bit you should do. If you get a chance, do some visuals. That would be really sensible. If you've got loads of time, you can pull together the whole slide deck. So that's the other thing that you're thinking about. When I said deliver on time, it's almost like you've got a clock ticking in your head the whole time. What is it that I need to deliver first? because if there was a disaster and I got stopped, I've still delivered value. I've still made a difference. I've still enabled Mark to deliver an event and tick that off his to-do list. So I'm thinking about my customer all the time. And what his business need is he needs to deliver an event around agile change because hundreds of you signed up for it. So I need to focus in on delivering that. By the way, I feel a bit inauthentic because I can honestly say this is the complete opposite of what my builders have done to me over the last 4 weeks. And I've just kicked that. I've just said, deliver on time. I've brought them back to this agile approach and went, no, you're going off site tomorrow night. There'll be no coming back. If you haven't finished the painting because you're whittering on about the plaster isn't dry because you started late, that's your problem. You won't get paid for the painting, go home. So there is something here around being willing to stick to those deadlines. So maybe I'm a bit authentic because I'm absolutely going to do that today. They're off site and boy, have they had a tantrum about it. But it is about, at least I would have got 80% of my build done, and it's workable and I can get into that part of my house next week and start using it because I've got loads of people coming and I need to host a workshop at my house, so I need that done. So again, it's all about compromise. You sometimes have to live without every single little tiny task you'd like. Would I like the walls painted? Of course I would. Can I live without it? Yes, I can, because I can still get people around a table and doing their work. So that is where the roadmap really starts to add value. And therefore, if I've inspired you, this is something that is a brilliant technique for anything, from dealing with builders who can't build, to sponsors who want to micromanage, to I don't really know what we're doing on this change, but I know a little bit and I want to start on it. So at least you know the first iteration. Whatever those things are, come on the Agile Change Agent course, because I promise you, you'll spend 2 days learning loads of useful techniques so you will be able to do stuff. Because actually, I constructed the course on the roadmap basis of delivering business value. So if you turn up for the first morning, you learn a load of techniques. The first afternoon, you learn more techniques. The next morning, you learn more techniques. The next afternoon, you take the exam and you get a qualification. So I've worked it out on that basis. And on that one, Mark, how do I do? 28 minutes past. Woo! Any questions?
Spot on. Seems the rehearsal paid off.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got, I can just see one question actually, but it's a good one. So yeah, question from Melanie. Do you think change managers can effectively work in sprints alongside developers, or does this make for a reactive manager?
No, not at all. I think what we deliver is we are chivying along all the time the business to create new ways of working. And so whilst we've got bits of physical delivery going on around us, a part of the system is being populated with data. We can still be running all the workshops and helping the business to work out, yeah, but how are you actually going to use that system? And what reports are you going to run? And what are you going to stop from what you do now? Because you won't need that anymore. We can do all of that alongside. So I do think within an iteration, we've got both tangible creation of stuff going on and how we do it. I absolutely think the two go together, and it's brilliant when it does, because then the business feel like they're really motoring with making progress. And at the same time, they know that there is stuff that's going to be drip fed into them. It gives them a huge amount of confidence. I love it.
Thanks, Phil. And just one other question that's just come in from Debbie. Is this course giving different insights to the change management practitioner course?
Absolutely. The change management practitioner course, which I'm delivering at the moment, actually, and I'm going back to in 1 minute, is all about the theories and models of change, which is great because it gives you the foundational knowledge, but it is theoretical. This course is all about techniques, what you are able to do. So I teach you how to do things, whereas the practitioner course is much more about what you should be doing. Because I think these days we need to know how to do stuff, and we then need to go back and do it in our offices because we're all pressed for time and we need to make a difference.
Great, thanks, Phil. I think we better wrap up there. Our half an hour is up, and pressed for time.
And I'm going to go and deliver the change management practitioner course before I deliver the Agile Change Agent in the 6th and 7th of June. See you there, guys. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget, if you like the format, the 30-minute Fast and Furious format, do let me know. And I think as soon as the webinar closes, you should see a quick survey pop up. So, and look out for the follow-up email as well once we've got the webinar recorded online. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Thanks again, Mel, as ever, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.